infrastructure monitoring with AI-inspired machine learning. We can maximize the asset performance and reduce the risk of the infrastructure failure with the help of AI. We all know that the environmental impact and the efficiency of the construction can be increased a lot if we incorporate machine learning. In this course, the goal is to help researchers get a basic understanding of how machine learning techniques can be applied in the existing research on industry. To mark the beginning, I would like to invite Professor Rajesh Kumar, our esteemed chief guest, Dean R&D, to facilitate our foreign faculty, Dr. Susmita Naskar. Dr. Susmita Naskar is a senior lecturer in School of Engineering and University of Southampton. Now I would like to invite Professor K.K. Pathak to facilitate our esteemed chief guest, Professor Rajesh Sir, Dean R&D, IIT BHU. Now like to invite Dr. Sameer Mustafa, sir, who is the course coordinator of this event, to facilitate Professor K.K. Pathak, Professor Civil Engineering Department, IIT BHU. Moving further, I would request Professor Rajesh Sir, our esteemed chief guest, to facilitate the course coordinator, Dr. Sameer Mustafa Sir. We will now move on to commencement of the program. For that, I would like to invite Professor Rajesh Sir, who is our esteemed chief guest, to come on the dais and say a few words about our chief guest, about our foreign faculty and this event.
Thank you. Very good morning to all of you. It's my privilege to be here with all the participants coming from the different parts of the state and other countries. And our speakers, foreign faculty, Dr. Susmita is a senior lecturer, deputy associate professor at the School of Engineering at the University of Southampton. Professor K.K. Pathak, the senior professor of our Department of Civil Engineering, and an organizer of these functions, Dr. Sameer Mustafa, and his team, students, dear friends. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Sameer Mustafa, who has invited me in very special occasions in this Gyan program, which was initiated by him himself. And this point of time, he has engaged, or he is going to engage to the people all around for the next 10 days. And the theme of this program is sustainable infrastructures, monitoring with the AI-inspired machine learning, which will be started from 15th September and will go, I think, by 25th of September of this year. As far as this topic is concerned, so we people are linked to the infrastructure development, directly or indirectly. We used to teach to the students regarding the different component of the infrastructure, like road, bridges, buildings, etc. Even the traffic management, you might have seen all around the cities, all around the world. He is used to teach by the students, taught by the faculty members of the Department of Civil Engineering. This topic, I think, is very contemporary and relevant today, where the people used to inspect all the structures manually, write the guidelines for retrofitting techniques if there is anomaly in the structures. Again, it is in the manual written script, and it will take time. Sometimes what happens, if you are going to inspect any structures with any intended use or any intended your service, it is very difficult for you to see all the anomalies in the structure by your naked eye. And I personally visited so many places, inspected so many structures, and sometimes even I was told by the client, I was told by the contractor engineers that it is not possible to go up a stair in the 34th story building on the rooftop due to the several reasons. It is not possible sometimes to go to the deck of the bridges because not accessible always during the construction. So only options for the engineers is that how to use the smart system, AI-based system, to understand the behavior of the structure. There are two parts. One part is that you are going to construct the infrastructure, that is the one thing. And in that, most of the people are talking about the methodology, optimization of construction, cost effective, sustainable. But the second part is related to the existing one, which are having the age of 50 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down. And it is very pertinent to see the health of the existing structure because a lot of human lives and others are related to that. For example, if you are going to the or passing through the bridge, so you should ensure yourself, or the authorities should ensure you to all of you that this bridge is having the component which is intact and there will be no damage, no collapse will take place in the recent time or during passing through one part to the other part of the bridge. And that is a very difficult task right now because almost all the cities are having 10 to 15 bridges who are under construction. And if you count it in the terms of the total bridges in the state or in the India, it is very difficult for you to go and inspect every bridge. So time has come to use the AI-based machine learning techniques in all the infrastructure for sustainable development, to introduce some sensors during the constructions or use some sensor after the construction to go for the health monitoring. So this is the one reason this program has been devised and this has been formulated, and I am sure that if this will give you the idea how to use the AI and machine learning. The topic is AI inspired machine learning, and these two, AI and machine learning, are connected to each other. Although both are different, you can say the machine learning is a subset of AI. How to make the machine so smart that he can understand the problem, It can tell to the people. It can also give a suggestion to how to rectify and how to do it forward. So once again, I thanks to all the members of the organizing team, especially to the Samir Mustafa, Professor K.K. Pathak is always instrumental to this type of the activities, is very active and also is one of the best consultant in recent times all over the India. He used to move everywhere. So I am sure that he will give something about that, about how to use the AI in machine learning in the all the activities of sustainable infrastructure. Thank you once again. Thank you very much.
To continue with the program, I would now like to call upon the dais Dr. Sameer Mustafa sir, who is the course coordinator, to formally introduce our foreign faculty, Dr. Susmita Naskar ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Our chief guest, Dean R&D, Professor Rajesh sir, and Professor K.K. Pathak sir, who is the STEM professor of our department, and then our foreign faculty expert, Professor Susmita Naskar. So I welcome you all to this course, which is about the sustainable infrastructure monitoring with AI-inspired machine learning. So this course was designed keeping in mind of recent challenges that we are facing in India. As you know, our Prime Minister has set the tone of Viksit Bharat by 2047, right? So because of this, there are a lot of modernization is going on all over India. So rapid development of infrastructure is happening. Now we are building lots of road infrastructure such as airports, dams, bridges, highways, whatnot, hospitals, all are coming up in quick time. And the thing is that they are the very important infrastructure and they are considered to be national assets of our country. So we don't want to lose them, and at the same time we have to monitor and enhance their safety as well as their functionality or longevity, so that we can maximize the output from the same resources, right? And of course, they require a lot of time to construct and as well as a lot of money, right? So it is economically very expensive as well. So by having a robust monitoring system and by continuous monitoring using the AI, we can minimize this the maintenance of this infrastructure, the cost to maintenance this infrastructure, and will also prolong the life of this infrastructure. So therefore, we can reduce the environmental factor as well, because construction requires a lot of environmental effort also, like carbon dioxide emission and energy consumption. So those can be reduced significantly. So keeping in mind of this aspect, this course was designed to give you the essence of the structural health monitoring, not only by the manual traditional method, which is labor intensive. By integrating it with the AI, we can reduce the maintenance time rapidly. Also, we can plan the maintenance activity in a logical way and scientific way. So this was the intention. So with this, without any much further delay, I would now invite the foreign faculty expert, Professor Susmita Naskar, to start her session about the first lecture, which is Introduction to Sustainable Infrastructure Monitoring, Opportunity, Challenges, and Role of AI. So thank you, all of you.
start? Shamim, you can start.
Yes, you can start. Oh, sorry. Do you want to give introduction? Or
So already give introduction is fine. Yeah,
okay,
that's
you can start.
okay. Let's
Without
start.
following
Okay.
me, otherwise it will be delayed.
Okay. So welcome everyone for today's first session. I think Professor Shamim and as well as everybody a little bit said about me. So I am basically a faculty in School of Engineering in University of Southampton, UK, and I do quite a lot of machine learning work from the last 10 years. But today's one is going to be a little bit interesting because we will see more into the aspects of sustainable infrastructure. So we will try to see, I think as Professor Ajay said that we are quite interested about how to make the infrastructure long lasting, and we know that that's always going to be relevant to a lot of data, and when we talk about data, we are always concerned about computational efficiency and how much time it's going to take care of that, right? So this course is more about to understand in the beginning a little bit of infrastructure. I'm not sure how many of you are having civil background except me. Okay, perfect. Then I think it will be quite relevant when we talk about what is infrastructure. We will a little bit see because I have tried to make the course very generic so that if anyone doesn't know the basic of infrastructure, we will little bit see in today's first session what we mean by infrastructure, what kind of monitoring we are interested about, and from there to slowly we will kind of go towards the AI or machine learning tools we have. From the last, I think the first 3 or 4 lectures will give us the brief introduction about how to do that. And then in the tutorial, we will try to do a little bit of coding. So are you all kind of comfortable with Python, MATLAB, any kind of, so we'll try to solve that little bit of coding into that in the first tutorial and then move more forward with the more efficient machine learning method. Basically through this course we will try to understand there are different type of ways of monitoring the infrastructure, and there are different machine learning algorithms or AI tools which we use in day-to-day basis. But it's very, very important for us to understand that for our own problem, which tool will work and how we could get the outputs, right? So that's what we will basically learn throughout this course. But as I said that there are lots of references, there are lots of ways to kind of understand how to do that. So for every course, what I generally try to do is that I will give you some references, I will give you some further study for you to think back, and in between the course, we will also kind of little bit do a small quizzes to understand that whether the whatever we are discussing is little clear. Not for all the course lectures, but some of those we will see little bit of quizzes to understand where we stand in, right? So as I think you all know that today is the first day 1, lecture 1, and in the outline I think I have tried to kind of show that what we are gonna talk about in the introduction part. So as we have, I think all of you must have the brochure with you. So the first one we are going to talk about a little bit of historical development for the importance of sustainable infrastructure, and then we're going to talk about what challenges or what opportunities or what key benefits we could actually get when we talk about monitoring the infrastructure. I mean, why we are interested to monitor those infrastructure. And then definitely from there we will move towards for the first lecture that what is the role of machine learning could possibly be when we talk about digital twin, which are quite going on in right now on the market, but we will definitely not cover digital twin here. But I am very happy to kind of talk with you because we do develop a lot of digital twin. So if any one of you are interested to kind of talk about it, except the class, I am very happy to even talk about with you all. And then the second part is a little bit of talking about sensors. When you know that when we talk about monitoring, when we talk about infrastructure monitoring, we need to identify the data. And how do we identify the data? We definitely collect the data through sensors, right? And once we collect the data through sensor, then we identify what data we are interested, we analyze it, and then further we kind of work on those, right? So definitely sensor integration is very, very important. That's what we're gonna look into that as well. Following that, we're gonna also look into some anomaly detection, some structural health monitoring. With SHM, we will also see different kind of monitoring. And then from that, some future challenges and future direction which we could look into. So this is basically the total outline of today's discussion. And this is the first one, which is the first. I think we are a little bit late today, so I will try to kind of cope up. But I think let's start quickly about what we mean by infrastructure when we talk about. As I said that first we will little bit try to see when we talk about infrastructure. We'll try to little bit get into the introduction. So. Sorry. So yeah, so first let's try to look into the what is introduction of infrastructure. You can see that I have tried to kind of highlight the important infrastructure, mainly when we are talking about the civil engineering aspect. So if you try to, let's begin by looking into what do we mean by infrastructure. Infrastructure is nothing but basically refers to the foundational systems and assets that's going to support our modern society as well as our modern economy, right? And the key, if you can look into the key elements, that includes the roads, that includes bridges, railways, power plants, residential as well as commercial buildings. We also kind of talk about pipelines, water, energy utilities. So those are the main ones which we are going to look into for this particular course, but definitely there are several other ones as well in the market. So all of this actually, if you look into that, they are very essential services. They also allow the communities and the global societies to function, right? Without this, we cannot function. And without them, definitely if you think about our everyday life, if you think about transportation, if you think about communication, if you think about energy supply, this would come to a halt if we kind of do not get these things, right? So one is the very important key point if you look into the second one, that the infrastructure is about very location specific. You will see compared to the other things, if you think about aerospace structures or machine ones, what is basically the difference when we talk about some way civil infrastructure is that it's very much location specific, and these assets are more, or most of the cases are fixed in a place and represent the capital goods, right, that are built to last for decades. Sometimes even for centuries, if you look into the infrastructure, right? So they are long-term investments, and that's the reason we are so much interested to monitor those, to understand their lifetime or even, you know, long-term, how they could possibly survive. And now the next one is that another important aspect of this type of infrastructure is that, especially when we talk about the transportation, power and water systems, they are a part of very complex systems. So now you can look into that if you look into the metro or if you look into the now transportation compared to what it used to be before and now what is now. The current situation in the modern cities especially, you can see they are very complex networks, right? So these networks may also kind of help us or possible to deliver us the services which is efficient and can benefit from economies for different high scale and scope, right? So the bigger and the more the connected system will be, the more efficient that operates, right? So that's how we can understand that how specific, location specific this infrastructure are, and with time they are kind of becoming more complicated. So our aim somewhere throughout this lecture we will see that we are very much interested to make it very long lasting. We are interested for human safety, economy and several other aspects. And as we kind of see this infrastructure, they are underpins our society a lot. Much of our infrastructure is aging and, you know, they are facing different kind of new pressure. And another important one, if you think about the effects of the infrastructure, that what is the important parameters which is affecting the infrastructure is the aging as well as the overloaded infrastructure, right? In many of the parts of the world, not even in India, I think whole world, that's the one of the biggest problem when we talk about bridges or different kind of civil infrastructure. So if you can see that the end of their intended design life, in some of the cases they are actually being used for exceeding their life as well. And this leads to several kind of problems. If you can think about unsafe bridges or some way, you know, inadequate flood defenses or decaying the pipelines, and, you know, there are some overstand facilities such as if you think about tunnels, airports or water treatment plants, and definitely there are certain power supplies as well. They are operating beyond their intended capacity. So that's one of the problem when we talk about aging and overloaded infrastructure. And then definitely another important one is that ongoing importance despite of the several challenges we feel. So despite these difficulties, infrastructure services remain very critical, meeting our needs or meeting the human needs, right? So the infrastructure they design and they are being built today, but if done carefully, if we kind of taken care of the sustainability, they can actually provide us safety, they can provide us security as well as adaptability, right? And this is very essential when we especially face some kind of challenges, like if you can think about some climate changes, something like earthquake, or even the population growth, right? And rising expectations of the society. So we must ensure that the infrastructure continues to protect us, the infrastructure continues to support our community. So that's another important challenge we do face. And then when we take this challenge going forward, you can see that all of this presents also a critical challenge, that how do we design this, right? How do we develop and implement those kind of infrastructure adaptively and sustainable infrastructure, which is always some way kind of able to handle the political, economic and technological as well as climatic challenges as well. So our approach should be very much forward looking, our approach should be kind of very much flexible, so that these challenges can be taken care of in some kind of circumstances, right? So now if you kind of quickly look into this one, so what we are trying to understand is that this is not only highlights the problem, but we are also thinking about the opportunities here, that how we can rethink, how we can like build our infrastructure to make it safer, to make it resilient and definitely fit for the future. So in the beginning, as I said that we are a little bit interested about infrastructure, but we are also interested about sustainable infrastructure. So here we will try to look into the concept of sustainable development. That's a very core principle when planning for the future infrastructure. That means we are thinking about the society, we are thinking about the environment here. So the first definition, as you can look into this here, is that explaining the sustainable development, and that is nothing but about meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation, right? To meet their own needs. That's something is very, very important. And this is essentially the balance between using the resources now, but also preserving them for the future generation or future to come. And this is basically a dynamic process, definitely. The definition emphasizes that sustainable development is a dynamic process with the time. It's not just about conservation here we are interested. It's about also enabling all the people to reach their potential, improve their quality of life, and at the same time protect and enhance the life support system for a longer period of time. So that's what we are interested, not only about today, but what is going to happen after 50, 60 years, when we think about the structure is going to be little old, not able to take care of the loading condition. So finally, if you can look into that, there are 4 fundamental concepts of sustainable development we are interested, which is the living with Earth's limit, recognizing that our resources are always finite, not infinite here, and ensuring that an acceptable quality of life for everybody. And we will talk about these small terms throughout the courses you will see. And definitely practicing the stewardship so future generation inherit a healthy planet, which is always we are concerned about throughout this process. And another one is the dealing with complexity. We understand that there could be always infrastructure going to be get developed. You don't see one story, two story anymore, right? Or you don't see, if you look into the railway structure, if you look into the bridges, infrastructures are getting complicated day by day. So definitely we have to deal with that to make life more easier. So we are definitely concerned about dealing with complexity, understanding the society needs, the economy needs, and definitely the economy that are deeply interconnected, right? So in the summary, you can see that when we talk about sustainable development, that is about balancing, that is about inclusivity, and also long-term thinking. That's very important factor, especially when we talk about sustainable development. What it's going to provide, it's going to provide the framework for tackling the global challenges we could possibly have when we think about climate challenges or resource scarcity, even the social inequality, which we will see. Now, if you will kind of think about the infrastructure development, how it could possibly go, it is very well known by the triple bottom line framework, which you could look into that. This is a very famous framework which we kind of use when we try to talk about sustainable development. And if you try to look into this Venn diagram here, you can see that there are 3 overlapping circles. First one is economy, second one is society, and the third one is environment. And if you will look into this each circle, they represent one pair of sustainable development. But when we talk about true sustainability or the real life sustainability, you can look into that this will always lies about the intersection of all of these 3. without all of these three kind of intersecting with each other, it's very difficult to find out the true sustainability for the monitoring. And especially when we talk about economic growth, we are interested about social well-being. We are also interested about environmental protection, which could be balanced. So this is the Venn diagram, which is always we try to use when we say that, okay, fine, our infrastructure is sustainable. In what way it is sustainable? What are the factors it's going to be taken care of? So this is the Venn diagram, which is always represent, and we call it as a triple bottom line. So this basically means that we are not just thinking about the financial returns, but also social outcomes we are thinking about. We are thinking about environmental impacts. And this is going to help us to ensure that the development decisions are always balanced and long term. So when we apply this to the infrastructure, when we apply this Venn diagram concept into the infrastructure, you will see that we are, as I said, we are thinking about sustainable infrastructure, the system that is going to develop, this system which is going to give us the long-term economic, social benefits. For example, if you think about a new transportation system, it's not about the cost, but also it's about reducing the emissions. It's also about improving the community of the access. It's also talk about improving the daily life of the people, right? So sustainable infrastructure is about creating solutions that gonna serve people, protect the planet, and support our economy all at the same time. And that's what this Venn diagram is kind of telling us, right? And then you will, so there's another one. This is also very, very important when we talk about how infrastructure is coming along inside the economy, society, and environment. And if you will look into this particular diagram here, you can see that economy and society, these two, are embedded within the environment, right? With the infrastructure acting in the interface. So, and this shows that the infrastructure is not isolated, it connects and mediates between the human activities and natural world. So that's the importance of this particular figure. And if you think about the engineering infrastructure, we are always kind of trying to look as an engineer for any problem. So if you try to look into that perspective, you can see that it provides a critical interface between the society as well as the environment. It's what makes the urban life definitely possible, and it helps as a large population to live and work together and supporting the density and complexity of the modern cities, which we will see. So infrastructure works, if you look into this particular case here, infrastructure works in both ways. It protects from environmental risks, if you think about floods, storms, or any kind of diseases. But it also manages our impact on the environment, such as controlling the waste or some way emission or resources uses. So that's how this dual role highlights that why designing and maintaining infrastructure sustainably is very, very important. So infrastructure is not about the building things, but also creating systems that protects the human and the environment simultaneously, right? And then now we will kind of quickly trying to point out few of the important or the world-renowned basic example or the principles which are lying or which are kind of always being given as an example when we talk about the basic principles, right? The basic principles are underlying the sustainable infrastructure. And you can see that this one we have tried to see from Asian Development Bank. It's a very quite useful framework and it's been used a lot when we kind of trying to give an example about sustainable infrastructure principle. And they have kind of tried to show in I think 5 different aspects or the 5 different principles. And if you will look into those 5 different principles, you will see that all of those we are always kind of taking care of some way directly or indirectly. When we are monitoring the infrastructure, we are interested to monitoring the infrastructure, right? Before we go ahead for the further one, anyone has any further doubt or anything? We will take questions after the session, but do you want to ask anything? Anything? If not, then we will look into this principle now. So the first one is definitely very important one, is promoting the low carbon development. We are always concerned about that. You can see that especially when we talk about civil structures, in aerospace definitely that's very, very important. We are always using composites and several kind of other things to take care of that. But when we talk about civil infrastructure, promoting low carbon development is also a very important factor. So first, sustainable infrastructure should promote the low carbon development as well as also minimize the impact on local environment. For example, by investing some renewable energy or using some low impact material, right? And the second one, which the Asian Development Bank said as one of the important principles, was the climate resilient solution. So basically it should help, or the sustainable infrastructure, what they try to quote on, it should help communities to deal with unavoidable impact of the climate change. That means the building has to be built, or the structure has to be built such a way that the climate resilient infrastructure should kind of taken care of. Some may think about flood defenses or drought resistant water system, or infrastructure that could possibly withstand any kind of extreme weather events. And here we are not only talking about buildings, we are talking about railways, bridges, any kind of infrastructure, right? And another important one is that improving the access and the equity. That's always, as I said, that when we talk about infrastructure, we are always talking about environment, we are talking about social life, we are talking about several other aspects. And the next one is quite associated with that. So the third one is what I said, that's improving the access and equity. So we are very interested that it should also improve the access of the poorer community. So that is very, very important, and that's why you will always see when these new metros are being built on any kind, any cities and all, people are always interested about the prices of the tickets, people are always interested about the past that has been taken care of, because we never want that only one community to get the benefit. We are always concerned about the communities, especially the poorer communities. They should get the essential benefits of that, or the essential services, right? So that is very, very important when we talk about social protection in that case, and as well as markets and productive assets. So the benefits of the development should be widely shared, and it should not be only closed in one community. That's very important. And when we talk about this, definitely the gender equality and empowerment, that's one of the very important part when they talk about Asian Development Bank. They always talk about emphasizing on gender equality and empowered women. So they should be ensured that the infrastructure benefits everyone, and they remove the barrier to the participation. So that's very important part. And then another important one is the transparency and efficiency. You will see that sustainable infrastructure should focus on transparency as well as efficiency in public resource management. So we should actually know that how the bridge has been built on, who built it, what material has been used, what is the long lasting capability. So that kind of transparency has to be there and should be there, and that's the reason or the principle kind of they should know, and controlling the wasteful spending and tackling the corruption to ensure maximum public benefits. So that's the main 5 principles when we talk about sustainable infrastructure. Those 5 principles are somewhere in the line important, and you will also somewhere believe that all these 5 points some way connected with each of these when we are talking about those monitoring, right? So if you look into these principles here, they show that sustainable infrastructure is not just about technical design, but also about social inclusion. It also talks about good governance, and taking together, it's always going to talk about the infrastructure in a better way. So now we have tried to look into some critical aspects. So if you have heard about United Nations of Sustainable Development Goal, we call it as an SDGs, and they are always trying to take care of the global climate targets. They are trying to achieve that, and their main goal is to understand a strong, resilient, good economy or global economy someday. So if you will look into their particular interest, you will see that the way they have tried to define the sustainable infrastructure is that it's not just about building greener projects, it's not always about using some renewable materials, some low carbon materials. It's also about creating systems that will reduce the emissions, that will also increase the resilience and support a long-term economic growth. And that actually presents a huge opportunity for positive changes. So through this course, you will always see that there are certain challenges we will always face, but the opportunities we could possibly can take care of, and from that opportunity, how we can go further, right? So now we will kind of quickly look into the numbers of SDGs. So basically SDG is that United Nations of Sustainable Development Goal, and they have given some kind of number that what is their target. And if you look into the first one, which is the 79% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. So basically at current situation, around 79% of the global greenhouse gas emissions are related to infrastructure, especially civil infrastructure. That means the way we design we build the infrastructure or we operate the infrastructure has the single largest influence on our ability to tackle the climate change. And the next one is that investing in clean energy and sustainable infrastructure that could actually generate 40% growth in global GDP by 2030. So if we kind of invest more into the green energy, if we kind of more invest into the sustainable infrastructure, then as a country, And it's not only about India, they are talking about the globally, it could be anywhere applicable. So the GDP can grow minimum up to 40% by 2030 if we take care of the global energy, if we take care of the greener energy, sustainable infrastructure. So that means that this shows that sustainability is not just kind of good for the planet, it's also kind of defining our economy, right? And then another important or the final, they are one of the important factors is that it estimated that the 92% of the United Nations SDG targets are linked with infrastructure. That means you can understand that how important the infrastructure could be for their interest, because they are always interested about a strong, resilient global economy. And you have to understand that they are not only talking about infrastructure, but their aim is for the economy. So some way you can understand how infrastructure and economy is kind of related with each other. So if you can think about these particular aspects, you can see that this is a clear message that sustainable infrastructure is one of the most powerful levers we have for addressing the climate change, we have for boosting our current economies and achieving the global development goals. So now here I have tried to kind of highlight the or summarize the key principle of the sustainable infrastructure, and this has also been kind of referred to one of the global economy where they kind of trying to understand environmentally more sound, or they understand the socially responsible and more future proof. So I have tried to kind of divide it into 4 important parameters. And if you will see those 4 fundamental principles, the first one is definitely, as we said, that the environmental sustainability within the limits. So we must ensure that the projects or the infrastructure project we are taking care of, that should respect the environmental limits, right? That means that setting clear targets and measuring against them, definitely, and structuring the business and project sustainability to reduce the harm towards the economy, harm towards the environmental aspects. So everything is currently somewhere relevant. And the next fundamental principle is going to be the socio-economic sustainability. That means the somewhere development. So the infrastructure must also deliver socio-economic benefits. This involves setting and measuring goals for the social and economic outcomes, and they also respecting the human rights, people's rights, throughout the project's life cycle. So that's the second principle. And the third one is that integration. So we have a responsibility to plan the future generation. We have to be quite serious to kind of take that in the mind. So that means that thinking it for the longer time and considering all life cycle stages, not only the current 20, 30 years, right? That's very important, from construction to operation to their end life. So we are kind of interested to the construction period, the time it is going to be operated, and then the end of their life. So all of this period we have to kind of taken care of, right? And then, as I said, that with time our infrastructures are becoming complex, right? Any kind of infrastructure you can look into, whether it's a building, railway, bridge, everything, right? So the complex systems, we have to kind of taken care of that the infrastructure exists within complex systems. So we need to open up problem space. We deal with uncertainty. I don't know how many of you are kind of quite aware of the term uncertainty. So when we talk about uncertainty, we kind of also talk about quantifying those uncertainty and taking care. So there are several kind of uncertainties always happen throughout the process. We're definitely not talking about that, but I'm happy to talk about it if you have doubt. But now in those kind of complex systems, there are always a lot of uncertainty which is being there. So considering those integrated needs and integrate different disciplines and roles to create effective solutions. And then there are 2 additional individual principles. They are definitely relevant, but some way connected. The first one is learning new skills and competence for sustainable infrastructure, and that's where the AI or machine learning comes to kind of take care of the big data, to kind of understanding the IoT, how the sensors could monitor throughout lifetime, right? So that's very, very important. And challenging the orthodoxy, that's very important to encourage the new innovation, right? Change rather than sticking to the old habits. That's the reason nowadays a lot of kind of new monitoring system is come into the picture. New machine learning model has been come into the picture, where you can see that we have to be quite open towards the new challenges and accept the solutions we are getting. And in short, these principles actually kind of help us to understand the infrastructure project. They are, as I said, they are built to last for a long period, but also built to serve people, protect the environment, as well as also adapt the future needs, right? And then if you kind of think about how monitoring can enhance the infrastructure, the lifespan, the performance. So this monitoring actually allow us to spot the problems little early. You will see that there are different kind of monitoring we are going to talk about, but that monitoring is actually helping us to spot problems very early, that will maintain the structure properly and extend their useful life, right? Which is very, very crucial when we talk about sustainability of the infrastructure. So infrastructure monitoring, as I said, is a continuous process, it's a systematic process, and it involves collecting, it involves analyzing, interpreting data on the physical condition and performance of the infrastructure. That means that we are always keeping an eye on how the structure behave over the time. And then definitely there are some tools and techniques we use. Monitoring uses a varieties of tools and techniques such as sensors, remote sensing system, data analysis software, and these tools give us a real-time or periodic information. So we as an engineer or a structural engineer, in a better way I could say, can make informed decision with the data, right? And now another important part is that why monitoring is crucial. So monitoring is very crucial for several reasons, but most importantly it helps to extend the lifespan of the infrastructure. By detecting the issues very early or by detecting the damage very early before the structure actually fails, we can make timely maintenance inventions to prevent the accelerated deterioration, right? So that keeps the asset in optimal condition longer, and that reduces our long-term cost as well, and that also minimizes the environmental impacts by avoiding the frequent reconstruction or reducing the demand for the new construction material. So that's why we think that the monitoring is somewhere very crucial. So infrastructure monitoring is not only saves the money, it also improves the safety, but also directly supports the sustainability goal by extending the asset's life and reducing the environmental impact. And then we will try to look into the multiple reasons the infrastructure monitoring, and mainly the two key benefits is that one is the optimizing the, if you look back into this one here we are talking about the lifespan of the infrastructure, right? And now the next two we are talking about the optimizing the management, and the third one is preventing the incident. So the second one actually which is the optimizing the infrastructure talks about monitoring, or it allows the optimizing of infrastructure management and maintenance operation, right? So with accurate up-to-date data, if you will take the data up-to-date of the condition of the structure, you can see that as an engineer we can plan the intervention very efficiently. This also will help us the downtime. This will reduce the downtime, this will lower the cost for us, and this will increase a lot of availability of infrastructure, ultimately improving the service provided to the user, right? So that's the one of the important part. And the third and the last one is it continuous monitoring is very, very important because it helps us, or it supports the some way the prevention of the incidents, right? Infrastructure such as if you think about buildings, or if you think about bridges, roads, power lines, they are always exposed to mechanical wear. They are always exposed to erosion, weather effects, weather conditions, and different kind of dynamic load throughout their performance, right? So without ongoing monitoring, small problems can develop into major defects, and that actually pose or in some safety risks to the public as well as potentially causing some kind of significant damage. So by catching these kind of issues little early, we can avoid the accidents, we can also protect both people as well as the assets or the infrastructure. So basically in a short, if you kind of see these three important factors, you can see that the monitoring of the infrastructure does not extend the asset of the life, but also optimize the performance, right? It also protect the public safety and making it essential part of the sustainable infrastructure management. So now with time we will see that we are going more into the monitoring part. So we will see that how the monitoring has been started, what are the typical types of monitoring we are interested about, and with that we will see the tools we are going to use, and from there we will kind of move into the more AI tools which we are going to use, right? So if we will now talk about a little bit about the infrastructure monitoring, so how does it basically happen? First key element is that how we start the monitoring, what we need to kind of start the monitoring. Anyone has any idea? When we say that, okay fine, we want to start the monitoring, what we need first?
We need data.
Data, right? Data collection, that's very, very important. So that's the first thing we start with, and what we use for it? Sensors, right? Yeah, sensors, they are being installed on the structure, or nowadays we are always using drones, we are using satellites also, there are manual inspection as well. that can capture a wide range of parameters like deformation, we are thinking about vibration, we are thinking about temperature, humidity, loads. Those are the things we are interested about, and that is going to give you a raw information we need, right? So once we have the data, the next part is we need to analyze the data, right? So what we do is that we perform the analysis to get that, and that step kind of identifies the anomalies or the trends that may include or indicate the potential problems, right? And how do we do that? There are several ways to do that. We can use some kind of softwares to do that, like Abacus, and kind of try to understand, or we can use some MATLAB to identify that. We can do some simulations. We can also use some AI data, and we can predict how the structure could behave in the future. So from the current data, you can actually take it, you can analyze it, and you can see that how the structure could possibly behave after a certain period of time, right? So once we're done with the data collection, we're done with the analysis, the next one is that interpreting the result, right? So as an expert, once you have the data, you analyze it, then you interpret the results to assess the structure's condition, determine whether the maintenance or repairs are needed, and then you convert the raw data into the insight, right? So once you have these three, what is the last thing we generally do?
According to insights, we have to take action.
Sorry?
We have to take action.
Yes, right. So once you understand how the data could possibly behave, right, you interpret the results, right, and then is that to plan it, that you have to take the action or intervention of the planning, right. So decide when and how to how to prevent it or correct the maintenance. That's the maintenance period you do. This approach actually resolves issues before they become critical, and that reduces the risk also and the cost associated with the unexpected failure. So that's the main principles we do, right? And then the types of monitoring we are interested about. So if you can see that when we talk about infrastructure monitoring, there are several ways we could do that. And I have tried to identify the 4 important ones which we generally kind of deal with day-to-day life. And among all of these, I think the first one, I think all of you must be aware about, which is the SHM, right? And that looking at the integrity and safety of the structure. The second one is the environmental monitoring, which we try to understand the environmental factors that affect the structure. And the third one is the functional monitoring, and that helps us, or that ensures the infrastructure operates as intended. And the last one is proactive and reactive monitoring. So identifying problem early versus responding after an issue. So proactive is that we are identifying the problem before the failure happens, right? Whereas reactive monitoring is that we are identifying the problem after the failure has happened. So effective monitoring combines these elements and type of, to keep the infrastructure safe. Now we will kind of quickly look into this type of monitorings, and we'll see some of the examples for each of these cases. Try to understand that how this is mainly being used. Okay, yeah. So this slide is basically talking about the structural health monitoring, which is one of the very key types of infrastructure monitoring, and on day-to-day basis in any kind of infrastructure, civil structure, aerostructure, make structure, that's something is very, very important. And when we talk about the SHM, it involves using a network of sensors, right, and systems that is being installed in the structure, such as if you think about, as I said, we are interested about bridges, tunnels, or buildings here, to continuously measure their condition, to understand how the health of the structure is, and the goal is that to detect the changes early, to monitor the performance early, and to ensure that the safety is there, right. So now if you look into this diagram here, you can see that there are a lot of type of, I don't know if you can see it from here, I think it's maybe not little clear from the reference here. But you can see the first one is talking about the strain gauge, and what we use for strain gauge? Deformation? Yes, right. So there are different kind of sensor you will see in the SHM, and we do use all of this in separate cases. First example is strain gauge. We use the strain gauges for the measuring of deformation. Then we use accelerometer, that's also quite important. We use it to measure the vibration. Then displacement and tilt meter sensor to track the movement. And then there are GPS also, which is being used quite a lot nowadays for the location changes. And then sound and vibration monitors to kind of understand the dynamic loading when we're talking about the bridge That's very, very important. So all of these sensors, they are feed data into the wireless data loggers and analysis system, right? And that creates a real-time picture of the structure's current state or the real-time picture of the structure's current health, okay? And what are the key benefits of this? So by monitoring the structures, we can detect the deterioration little early before the damage could possibly happen, schedule the maintenance very proactively and extend the lifespan of the structure, and also we improve the safety, we improve the reliability of the structure, we reduce the long-term cost as well, right? So structural health monitoring is a cornerstone of the modern infrastructure management. It provides the information we need to make better decisions and keep the critical assets safe and functional. And that's one of the very important one, I would say, or you see that most famous one when we talk about infrastructure monitoring. And then comes the environmental monitoring. That's also some way important because it's applied in a real world setting where we are talking about temperature changes, we're talking about corrosion, we're talking about fatigue or different kind of environmental effect that could happen. If you talk about composite, we are talking about different kind of failures, damage as well. So environmental monitoring actually focuses on measuring the external condition and stresses which is acting on the infrastructure. And this includes things like, as I said, temperature. This also includes things like humidity. This includes the rainfall or air quality, absolutely. Even the vibration from the traffic, that could be also another reason, and even the pollution level. That's also the factor of the environment. And these factors can all affect a very long-term performance and safety of the structure. So in this diagram, you can see that there is a field mounted on the IoT sensor and this is a long breach. Okay, so this kind of devices are being used to continuously record the environmental conditions. For example, if you think about especially transportation engineer, they kind of do it a lot for the bridges, for the roads, to monitor how the performance or the strength of the road or the bridge is, how heavy the traffic is, right? How the changing of the temperature is impacting the bridge. So those are the things you can actually measure using these IoT devices. And the sensor actually provide a real-time flow back to the data engineers who are kind of monitoring it on a time period, right? And what is the key benefits? Why we are interested into the environmental monitoring? So by monitoring the environment around the infrastructure, you can see that you can understand how external forces or how external factors they contribute to wear and deterioration, right? They can also help us to predict how climate and usage pattern may affect the lifespan of the structure. They can also make a better decision about the maintenance. They can also improve the public safety by catching the potential risk and early. So environmental monitoring complements the structural monitoring. You can understand it is some way little bit relevant that SHM is some way complements with environmental monitoring by not looking just at the structure itself, but also environmental monitoring is the condition which is exposed to every day. That's what is actually environmental monitoring is bringing into the table compared to the structural health monitoring, right? And another important one is the functional monitoring. So that's also not quite a famous term, but nowadays it became very, very famous because of a lot of sensors are being into the new things are being into the monitoring system. So when we talk about structural health monitoring, that looks at the physical integrity, right? When we talk about environmental monitoring, that is talking about the external condition, right? So what is functional monitoring? So functional monitoring actually focuses on whether the infrastructure is actually performed as designed during its operation. So that's the reason we generally do the functional monitoring, right? So basically this kind of monitoring tracks how the infrastructure behaves under real life conditions. So what we generally do, if you think about, I don't know how many of you actually designed and build. So we kind of design it, right, using some softwares. We do analyze it, right? We do all kind of failure testing, loading testing, and finally we build the beach, right? But we build the beach, we have done all the simulations, we know it's working perfect on our computer, but whatever we build, whether it's actually kind of working good in the real life, we need to monitor that, right? Because we spend a lot of time, money, investment, everything on this. That's what we are interested about, what is functional monitoring, right? So that's what the functional monitoring actually does, that when we build the infrastructure, does it actually behave well or as planned in the real life? That's what we are interested about. And how it measures? So it measures how the loads are acting, when there is some kind of stress, temperature, how those factors are affecting the structure on the day-to-day conditions. So this is especially very, very important for the safety critical infrastructure like, as I said, the bridge, tunnel, railway system. For those cases especially, we are quite interested to understand that whether the structure is behaving as well in the real life case, right? So now if you will look into this particular image here, we see a bridge instrumented, and they have actually added some fiber optic sensors including FBG strain sensor, and they have tried to understand the structure. Strain can be there. They have also introduced some FBG temperature sensor, track the thermal effects into the structure. And the data acquisition system, we can see that that's also been there. They have introduced a data acquisition station there to understand that all sensor data is collected, it's being processed, it's being monitored, right? This system continuously feeds the information back to the engineer to access whether the bridge is functioning properly within the safety period, within the expected limits. So that's what basically this monitoring does, okay? So as I said that the key benefits of this monitoring compared to the SHM, compared to the environmental monitoring is that they detect the performance deviation early. So if there is any damage or crack which could not be taken care during the design period, right? You just built it and the structure started behaving or working on a real life. So whether there is some early crack or the structure is not able to take care of the sudden temperature change or heavy flow of the traffic. So those kind of things can be monitored very early before it goes to a massive, damage. So and that means that it also helps or plan the maintenance based on actual performances rather than the fixed schedules. So there are always some kind of fixed schedules for these bridges or structures that okay fine, after 5 years this is going to be monitored, after 6 years it's going to be monitored. But once it is built before that period, whether it's actually working well, whether there is any kind of early damage or early cracks are there, so that's actually going to be monitored using the functional monitoring, right? So basically functional monitoring bridges the gap between the design assumptions, as I said, that we take some design assumption as a designer, we do design, we build the structure, but there is a real life performance, right? So that's actually kind of bridge the difference between the assumption and the real life performance. And that giving us the confidence that the infrastructure which we design is operating safely, right? And efficiently under several everyday conditions. That could be loading condition, that could be temperature condition, any kind of condition, right? So that's actually helping us to understand that. And then there is another one which is the proactive monitoring and reactive monitoring. That's also some way kind of quite famous when we talk about when we are monitoring. Are we monitoring before the structure has been failed, or are we monitoring once the damage has already been done, right? So that's the differentiate between the proactive monitoring and reactive monitoring. So basically proactive monitoring is about the ahead of the curve. That means it's continuous, right? It's real time, or it's periodic monitoring and designed to detect the changes or trends before the failure happens. For example, if you think about the sensors of the bridges, that can identify the stress which is being built up, or unusual vibrations early on, or allowing the maintenance team to act before a crack or failure actually happens. This is basically when we talk about that's the proactive monitoring. And what is reactive monitoring? So reactive monitoring is basically takes place after the event has been taken or the damage is suspected. That means we imagining the damage has already been introduced, so it's just after that. And it's essentially damage driven, or it's basically the post incident suspect, right? So that if you look into this two images here, this image on this one is basically a real world example of this approaches. So this is nothing but a data graph and sensor installation, and that represents the proactive monitoring, detecting the issues early under the live loads or the test condition. And on this side, if you this one is talking about the diagram, which illustrates a bridge which has been equipped with different kind of sensors and the data acquisition system. But in this particular case, what we are imagining is that the damage has already been introduced, right? So by combining both of these approaches, we can maximize the infrastructure safety and longevity relatively. So now this is a very, so I tried to kind of give you a very good definition of these two, because these two are very, very important for us to understand that. So proactive is always, please remember, it always happen before the damage has been occurred, and reactive is always after the problem has been occurred, right? So proactive is basically the preventive approach. It relies on a continuous data, as I said. You need to have a continuous data collection and predictive analysis identification, and they also identify the problem before they occur, right? So by doing this kind of constant monitoring, this is a live continuous process of this infrastructure monitoring. We use the advanced sensors, right? We use some kind of IoT sensor, we use AI or big data analytics, we use digital twin nowadays to detect the anomalies very, very early before the damage has been introduced. and we plan the interventions efficiency. That okay, fine. If there is some chances of, there is some reducing stiffness, what is possibly happen, or if some changes of the vibration, something like that. So we basically know before the incident is happening, and then we kind of cure it before the incident actually happens. And that's how proactive monitoring works on. And as I said, the reactive monitoring is, on the other hand, it's already problem happened. So it's traditionally used where continuous system, that means we don't have any live continuous system, right? This approach mainly kind of used to use quite a lot before, because it involves a lot of manual inspection, or some places where you cannot kind of do some live inspection or post-failure assessments and intervention triggered by visible damage. You can see with your naked eyes all kind of things that possibly could, once you have your issues, your maintenance is going to be much costlier than the before. So it's also disrupted the because if your bridge will have some kind of damage or there is some issue, so the whole thing is going to be disrupted. So that's the reactive monitoring has an issue. So the basic key takeaway is that together when we think about these two monitoring, they kind of definitely create a balance. The proactive approaches catch the issues quite early, this reduce the risk case, while the reactive is that they measure the issues through the responses by and before any kind of unexpected events happen. So please remember, when we talk about reactive monitoring, it does not mean that there is some huge issue happen and then only we understood that. It basically means that there is some crack is always already been introduced, or you can see some kind of cracks or damages, and that's where we call it reactive monitoring, right? So then there is one of the very important one, especially when we talk about sensors, that is the Internet of Things. When we talk about live monitoring, IoT is very, very important. And innovation in infrastructure monitoring, they have been quite focused nowadays when we talk about Internet of Things or IoT, because it's transforming how we collect the data. It has actually transformed in the last few days how we analyze the data from this big infrastructure, right? So the IoT is very essential network of interconnected devices and sensors that communicate. They also help us to share the data in real-time cases. When we talk about real-time structural monitoring, they also help us to install the sensors onto the structure, means onto the buildings, bridges, roads, any kind of critical structures. And these sensors actually collect continuous information throughout the period, especially when we talk about, we are interested about temperature, we are interested about humidity, vibration, deformation. Thus this being basically a continuous process to help us, this sensor, help us to understand the continuous process of this particular monitoring, right? And this data is transmitted to the centralized management system, where it can be analyzed in real time to detect the anomalies and potential issues quite early. And why it is important? Definitely it provides us, or it improves the effectiveness of monitoring, because it provides the real-time data, right? Tells us the real-time visibility into the health of the infrastructure. It also involves, or it also enables the preactive maintenance by reducing the downtime and repair cost, and also extending the lifespan of the asset, right? And so basically, if you think about the IoT, with IoT we shift from manual inspections and periodic chase to the continuous inspection. We kind of shift into more smart monitoring, more sustainable monitoring, which helps the infrastructure more safer, which helps the infrastructure more resilient, and which helps the infrastructure more cost effective, right? Because if you kind of early damage, if you can identify the damage, or if you can identify before the crack initiates through this live monitoring or long lasting monitoring, definitely your cost is going to be quite less compared to the one when the damage is already been introduced. And then when we talk about any kind of this live data, when we talk about this real-time monitoring, we know that there should be, or there will always be big data, right? And that's the major innovation when we talk about infrastructure monitoring, the use of big data analysis, right? This is basically very essential when we talk about handling the vast amount of information which is we get it from kind of IoT sensors or any kind of other resources. So by analyzing this data, we can extract a very kind of valuable insight. We can identify the patterns, we can identify the trends, we can detect emerging issues before they become a very, very serious problem. So by big data improves the accuracy of the forecast, they also help in analysis, they also enables more informed, timely decisions when we talk about maintaining the data or maintaining the infrastructure and some way managing the monitoring. So basically it helps us to understand the maintenance and management of the infrastructure. So So for example, if you think about both historical and real-time data, we can predict the structural deterioration and plan targeted maintenance, right? So this leads to what? Again, the better safety, the reliability, cost effectiveness, because you take the decision before, early, and also do not kind of assume anything. You kind of see the previous history and then understand how the structure could possibly behave in the next 10, 15, 40 years, right? You do not rely on the assumption. You kind of have your data, you analyze that, and you understand how it could possibly behave in a certain years. So now, if you look into this figure here, this diagram shows a very typical sensor data algorithm or analytical architecture it could generally leads. So what we do is that sensor feeds the data to the gateway, right? Then to the data that takes and the big data warehouses, and from there the control applications, data analytics, and machine learning, they all work together to this big data, and they generate the actionable insight, right? Whether you are interested about vibration, so basically that's gonna give you the inputs to the outputs as a vibration. If you are interested about frequency, buckling, whatever you are interested about, so that data, selecting the machine learning tool, going to give you the output accordingly, right? So with big data, infrastructure monitoring becomes proactive, definitely, because we are kind of early detecting before the damage is occurring. They are becoming very predictive. They're helping extend the lifespan, optimize the maintenance, and they improve the performance of this infrastructure. So then when we talk about big data, when we talk about live monitoring using the IoT, the very important factor which comes into the picture is the artificial intelligence, right? So artificial intelligence in infrastructure monitoring is one of the very most powerful innovations which is improving how we manage it, how we protect the infrastructure asset. So AI actually allows us to autonomously analyze the large volume of data which we get from the sensors or this monitoring system. It also helps us to identifying the patterns. We will see some of the examples today, and anomalies that human analysis might miss, right? So and then machine learning algorithm. So machine learning algorithm can be trained to recognize early signs of structural degradation or malfunctions that enabling the timely prevent or invention, right? And why it is important? If you think about the algorithms, especially when we talk about artificial intelligence, they also support the scenario simulations. They also operate optimization, which improves the resource management, and they also reduce the operational cost, right? Furthermore, AI can also automate the monitoring process, right? They can also freeing up humans operators. They can also improve the efficiency. So now, if you kind of trying to look into this particular diagram here, you can see that in this diagram, the GNS and EO satellites are being there, and they are being act as an on-site sensors to collect the real-time data. Okay, so data is then transmitted to the monitoring, and they are control centers for real-time and cross-processing analysis. And then GeoHSM software is generally being used to further process this data, and AI tools are being integrated into this GHM software to process the data and to kind of deliver the actionable insights to the operators. That what performances or what data they are interested about, right? And what is the key takeaway? So by integrating this AI into the monitoring system, we gain a smarter, faster, and more effective maintenance capability, right? And again, that is going to help us to extend the lifespan of the infrastructure. That also help us to improve the safety. So then, as I said that when we talk about collecting the data, how we are further processing the data, analyzing the data is somewhere very, very important, right? So here you can see I have given you one of the example of 3D simulation. That's also somewhere important because it helps us to visualize and analyze how infrastructure could possibly behave any under various conditions. So if you think about any certain cantilever beam, just let's think about a cantilever beam, right? If you try to analyze the cantilever beam, if you just put load on different part of those particular beam, by analyzing that, you can understand the beam, how the beam could possibly behave in a load at a certain part, right? Don't you? You can do that, right? And that's actually help you to understand that how the structure could possibly behave with using of this 3D software, right? That is actually helping us to understand how the structure could behave in a certain loading condition, certain materials. Definitely you can change the boundary conditions and such other things. This is basically helping us to visualize that how the structure in real life could behave. It could help us to understand, analyze the infrastructure under various conditions, right? Definitely we cannot build the bridges, we cannot do the testings and all of that. So this is the softwares which are helping us to understand how in real life scenario this could possibly behave, right? Or in operation condition. We can also incorporate some environmental condition, right, to providing a better understanding of their performance. So So by building a detailed three-dimensional models, we can perform stress analysis, we can perform load simulation, testing how the structure could, or the bridge could behave in a different scenario. So that's how the importance comes, and that's why we are interested to understand how it could possibly behave. And this will actually help us to identify the weak points that or the vulnerabilities before they turn into real-world problem, right? It also allows us to test and optimize the solution virtually before we are building in the real life, and that helps us to reduce the cost, absolutely. That helps us to reduce the risk and definitely improving the infrastructure safety, right? So now you can see quickly here that this is a very very common example of 3D simulation of a bridge I have tried to show. You can see that they have tried to show how the stress and loading distribution could possibly visualize using the different color gradients. Blue one is more for the low stress and the red one is the high stress, right? And this provides you a very immediate insight into where the structure is most vulnerable. And then you redesign your structure to take care of those, right? That's how we always do take care, right? So basically the key takeaway is that by using this kind of 3D simulation software, there are a lot of those things, right? We use Abacus, ANSYS, COMSOL, depending on what we need. We as an engineer can make data-driven decisions, we plan the maintenance more effectively, and we ensure that there is a long-term, lasting infrastructure. Then with this we will kind of move towards more into the AI and the machine learning approach and how it is transforming the infrastructure, right? So when we talk about AI leverages machine learning algorithm to analyze the historic or real-time data, right? This also helps us to understand the pattern and that occurred before the failure happens. So this predictively actually maintains capability which allows users to be addressed, right? If you think about an example, for example, AI can monitor the help of a critical infrastructure component. If you think about some kind of structures like maybe servers or bridges or many kind of storage device. So if you think about analyzing those matrices like temperature, or think about CPU usage or maybe kind of structural strain, you can predict the failure in advance and alert the teams to take prevention, right? If you see some kind of structural changes like in strain and all, you can always take care of that. In SHM, what we do is that in SHM, AI is being introduced as a new method for data processing, also for damage detection and predictive maintenance, and handling the vast data system which we get from this live monitoring, right? And what machine learning is being doing, when we talk about machine learning, when we talk about deep learning, and another important parameter, if you have heard about the ANN, which is the artificial neural network, it is being used a lot when we talk about SHM compared to the other monitoring system. This is actually a very useful method which can extract the meaningful insights. There can be thousands or lakhs of data or inputs, right? So which ones we are interested if we are thinking about SHM. So these are the three important machine learning, deep learning and ANNs. They help us to identify those insightful, meaningful data for SHM and identify the hidden damage and predict the failure, the future failures very nicely. Whereas when you think about AI actually improves the precision. They also help in reliability of the SHM. They also enable the development of the smart autonomous monitoring system that requires the minimum human intervention, right? So at the end we can understand that by using this AI and ML infrastructure, as an engineer we can move towards more into the predictive maintenance, extending the asset life, reducing the cost, and definitely, as I said, public safety, which is very, very important to kind of early detecting the damage, right? So now we kind of understood how this could possibly work. So I will let's go through some of this one or two quizzes to understand where we stand. So when we talk about proactive monitoring, does proactive monitoring actually aims to act after a failure has occurred? No, right? Yeah, absolutely. And what is the one advantage of proactive monitoring over reactive monitoring? Sorry? Okay, and what else? Early defining, yes, right? And reduce cost. Another one is that predictive maintenance, right? So these are the one. Now when I was talking about that detecting the particular images, right, or detecting the particular case, this is what I was talking about. So here is the two examples I will show, and those two are quite similar. The first one I will show you, and the next one we will try to identify all together. So if you will try to see and illustrate how this AI and machine learning can be applied to damage detection in SHM, especially when we talk about identifying the crack in concrete, right? So first what we do is that the AI models, how they can be trained to classify the images as there is a crack or no crack, right? This is a very simple step. and that can actually help you to provide a binary output. So there can be like lot of images from the, maybe you can use any camera base, and you can immediately identify in among which image has some crack and which image doesn't have it, right? So once this is done, and that process we are being called here as a classification, right? So once, sorry? Yes, the first classification we do, right? So once the classification is being done, so what is the next stage? Next stage we do? Detection, right? So what so once the classification is done, so beyond the classification, the AI can pinpoint where exactly the crack is, right? Which is being located in the image, and this allows a more targeted inspection rather than the whole structure. So that process we call as a detection, right? So once the detection is being done, the next one is segmentation, yeah, right? So finally the segmentation model can be extracted. That means the shape of the crack, the size of the crack, the intensity of the crack, and this will help or allow us essentially mapping the damages becomes very pixel by pixel, right? For quantitative analysis. So then once your classification, detection, segmentation is being done, then we go to the training and testing of the particular, if you think about the pipeline case here. So the diagram here you can see that on the right hand side on this one, that is showing you the standard process. That means training the AI model with many level images you have to teach it to recognize the crack, then testing it on the new image to predict the crack, and this improves the accuracy and speed of the inspection, right? So basically by automating this crack detection using this AI tool, we can significantly reduce the inspection time, improve the consistency, and then there will be some places where you cannot reach to identify the crack. So those are the places where we kind of use these techniques which help us to enable the predictive maintenance to prevent the failure before actually it happens. So now let's see another cases of AI and machine learning where we are talking about the corrosion detection on sealed surface. So when we talk about the process, how we go ahead, what is the first process which comes here? Similar way the previous one. So what we do in the beginning? Classification, right? We try to identify whether there is some kind of corrosion or no corrosion, and this is going to help us to identify the areas which we are concerned about. In the large pixels we are talking about. It's not about like 5-6 images. Here we are talking about lakhs of images being taken, and then we are identifying from there, right? So classification is being done. We classified, okay, fine, there are some kind of damages here. And now what is the next one we do here? Sorry? Yes, detection do, and what we do there? Yes, yes, where the exact corrosion exists, right, with an image, right? And that is going to help us to maintain the team to focus on some specific image. And once the classification is done, we detect the exact trace. And what is the next one? Yes, segmentation, right? By pixel by pixel, we try to understand the actual size of that shape, similar way as we have done, and then further again training and testing to kind of identify, use the AI tool, and then thousands of level image will be there to train the model and to understand how to take care of that. So basically using this as again the similar way that the corrosion detection that helps us to speed, consistency, accuracy. So that's the one of the very way, the very similar, we kind of do it for several cases, not only for the corrosion or the crack. There are several other kind of damages which you could see with your naked eyes, or which can be taken care of with the image processing. So you can actually do like that. But then except this also, we sometimes take the micro images, right? And if you kind of work with the metals, if you kind of work with the composites, we know that we kind of take the microstructure as a CT scan, and from that we can define, okay, fine, there is some crackage, there is some fiber deformation, there could be some kind of matrix cracking, and that is also can be used that way, okay? So not only these cases, this can also be used if you have some micro CT images, if you have some micro scale images. So this method can similar way in the same process can also be used in that, right? But for the civil structures, we do not go into the micro scale. We generally go for the cases of composites, to go for metals as well, not much for the steel and concrete, right? And then again, let's quickly look into that. So when we talk about proactive monitoring, what is this primarily about? See, right? It's a continuous data collection and predicting the problem. So now as I I think we will quickly look into the little bit of summary. So we have talked about the infrastructure and sustainability, right? We have seen the forms of the critical interfaces here, the SDG goals, and then the key principles when we talk about, so basically we have talked about the environmental sustainability, we have looked into the social economic sustainability, and then the complex system, that if the system becomes little complicated, then especially with the modern system, the how we kind of tackle with that, right? And again, the next one is that understanding the infrastructure lifespan to monitoring. That's something we have looked into that how utilizing the sensor. Definitely, we will get into more details in the coming lectures. But we have looked into the infrastructure monitoring can be continuous and how the data driven actually helping us to understand, observe the physical case, right? And then the types of monitoring, as we said, that how structural health monitoring to environmental monitoring to the functional monitoring, how they are important. And the one of the very, very important one is the proactive versus reactive monitoring, and where we actually stand when we talk about the difference of this and why both of these two are very, very important, right? And then innovation, as I said, that we have to kind of come out more into the, previous method. We have to look into what the computer science or any other aspects could possibly offer us, which as a structural engineer we can implement in our case, we can implement in our design, and we can make our life easy, we can make our infrastructure more long lasting. So we talked about Internet of Things, which is IoT. When we talk about IoT, that means we definitely need to talk about a lot of big data, and when the big data is there, how to analyze those data, how collectively or correct way kind of generate those data, and that's the way definitely we talk about AI, right? And we cannot just do some coding, get the data and say, okay, fine, this is the stiffness, this is something we need. We need to also imagine how the structure could possibly behave in a real life scenario, and that's the reason we do need the 3D simulation software to analyze that, right? And then the importance, a little bit of importance of the AI and machine learning we have seen in this lecture to understand that early fault detection, and why that could be possibly used, the deep learning and neural network, which can be very much useful when we talk about complex data. So the key takeaways from this, so for all of this after the lecture, we'll try to understand the key takeaways to see where we stand at the current position. So basically we kind of see that the infrastructure, or especially if we say that sustainable infrastructure, can kind of balance with the advanced monitoring. So it's coming with advanced monitoring plus sustainable infrastructure, and what it's going to give us a long lifespan, it's giving to give us reduced cost, it's also giving us the lower environmental impact, right? And then it's also proactive, that means we are monitoring throughout, it's live monitoring, we are data driven maintenance is important, and that is going to help us in preventing failures, that is enhancing safety. And as I said, the emerging technologies, the current advanced technologies, how they are important when we talk about sustainable infrastructure plus advanced monitoring. When these two are coming together, how the new technique which is now in the market, we are using as a designer we're not building those tools, but we are using those tools for our design to make our design more future trendy, or to make our design more, smart, predictive, and automated systems, right? So that's the main summary of today's one. And if you kind of go ahead and see more details of what we have discussed, because definitely we will not be able to talk a lot of things in the class or a lot of things in the lecture. So for all of the lectures, you can see that I will always try to highlight some of the important reference. We can always go back, and everything which is being used on the slides, you can actually get using these references. So all of these references will kind of help you to kind of study further or help you to understand how it could possibly work, right? So with that, I think we are correct at the time at 12:30, though we have started a little late. I will end this lecture now, and I think we will meet in the next one. Okay, thank you everyone. Now, do you have any questions? I think I would like to take some questions, or Shamim, do you think we should take it later? Should we take some lecture?
Quick question.
Yeah, maybe some quick questions if you have.
Based on this lecture, yeah. Then we will have another session in the
Yeah, yes,
afternoon.
yes.
How will AI algorithm determine the level of pollution?
Sorry?
How will AI algorithm
Yes.
determine the level of pollution?
Yeah, level of corrosion. Yeah, that's where we are identifying that level of corrosion means you are saying that where it is happening, what is the how much it is. That depends on what the quality of the image you are getting, right, and how efficient images are. That's very, very important, and what data or what machine learning algorithm you are using. Definitely if you are using something which is like some ANN method, it's going to actually give you, depending on the pixel size. If the pixel size is really good, absolutely you can exactly monitor. That's the reason if you can see that with the drones and with the satellites, we are taking the images. So definitely you can exactly monitor where the corrosion or the crack happened, exact size of that and how intense that is. It only depends on the image size or the pixel size. Yes.
Ma'am, what can be the minimum resolution of the camera that we can have for the testing, such type of testing?
Yeah, so basically it depends, because if you think about the current satellite one, they have a very high pixel size. So we will talk about the remote sensing a little bit on that perspective. But I cannot exactly tell you the pixel size, but yeah, that could possibly vary. But if you see the drones, so with the drones currently what we are, you will see a lot of CBRI, PSRI projects are also now they are working on that. The pixel size is generally, I think, just same as your iPhone. Yeah, so you don't need a lot if it's the cracks and corrosion, but yeah, for the micro CT and all, that's a very different range. So you really need a very high definition images for those when we talk about the micro case. But for this one, yeah, I think even for your iPhone, you can just take the images and you can just take it back to your AI, and if you can see with your naked eyes. But basically the main challenge is that you cannot reach there. That's the reason we use these drones or satellites to take the images and analyze it further. But if you can go there, take certain images, you can absolutely come back and analyze it. Yeah.
While using
Yeah.
images, we can use CNN models also.
Yes, so that's very much important about what inputs and output you are interested about. Like, so for me, because I am not a mathematician, but I do as a machine learning model, I use it for my own design. So what you could do is that you can also use some hybrid models. So nowadays, so I have used Kriging as well as CNN, because it depends on what is the length of your data, right? And how many outputs you are interested about. If you have very small outputs, you can use Kriging, you can use CNN, but if you have like a large amount of parameters, then you may need to use ANN or RVF, so there are different kind of ones. But for SHM, the good ones are deep learning and ANN. Yeah. Any further doubts, anybody? Yes.
Still what get from the sessions, you are collecting the data, processing and get the results.
Yes.
That's straightforward problem. Means we have the data, we do some processing and get the results.
Yes.
But can we operate some algorithms or something to find the inverse problems, like from the hidden data, we find some in the later section we discuss about the ANN. So is there possibility to, from these data we can operate some algorithms and find the root cause, not the results, some hidden predictions or something different from that data. So for future, we not need to again reanalyze and again do the same processing. So how, if yes, then how, and if not, then what will be?
Yeah, so the first thing is that it's always not about we get the data, and we analyze it and we get it. Basically, you can imagine you have like 10, 20 lakhs of data, right? And among those data, you have to first of all understand that which one you need. So this machine learning model is actually basically helping you to understand that which of the data you are interested as per the output you are talking about, right? So that's not always about collecting the data engine. So that's the some ways machine learning is helping you to identifying the correct data and then channelizing that and analyzing that data, right? So that's the basic forward, that's the basic forward process. For inverse process also there are some hybrid machine learning algorithms. I think I have done that a lot where I have, but that is, there is no direct process of model. So you have to kind of mix to machine learning model to kind of train it such a way that it goes back to the image again. But always you have to tell them what you want. So if you are calculating the vibration further, but if you are interested about deformation, that maybe deformation you are interested about the the data. So you have to tell the model that that's what you are interested about. If until and unless you tell the model that what you are interested about, this is not going to give you the output, isn't it?
My question is
Yeah.
That we have a data.
Yes.
And every time we go to let's talk about the pixel data.
Yes.
We have images.
Yeah.
And what is the output requirement? We do the processing.
Yeah.
So why not find some formulations and something from that data? If whenever we need this type of requirement,
Yeah.
we use that direct
Yeah, but the thing is that it's a live monitoring is happening, right? So it's not always about we are doing it in after certain period. So every certain time, these new data are going to be generated, and that's going to talk about the current process of the craft. So if you do something like that, that can happen in a, like if you're talking about after 5 years, then we see the, okay, history, that definitely we look into that, okay, we look into the previous data, and we try to assume that how the structure could behave in a 50 years period. That's definitely possible. But here we are interested about the lifetime or the, the life monitoring of it. And for that, every time you have to do that. And that's the reason we are using the AI, because you don't have track now maybe, but tomorrow it could possibly happen. Yeah, but that actually used to previously happen a lot, because that's mainly kind of when you don't have the AI model, you kind of make the data, you make the particular equations on your MATLAB, and you go back after 4 years and you use the same one and just say, okay, fine, the structure could actually behave in that way because it behaved in this way before 5 years ago, and we have designed it for 40, 50 years. Yeah. Anyone has any further doubts? If not, then I think I will see you all in the next class, right? Thank you, everyone.
So please come on time.